Welcome to another episode of the You podcast. I wanted, before I introduce my amazing guest, I wanted to give you some context. So, as most of you that have listened or watched the podcast recently know, I put myself in an area of discomfort and decided to take myself away from doing marathons and enter the big scary world of ultra marathons. So I took it upon myself to enter a race, Glasgow to Edinburgh, 56 miles, keeping this as short as possible. On the morning of the night before, I woke up. I could barely move. I was in serious pain, but I felt elated, like I was over the moon. So it was this juxtaposition between the elation and the significant pain that I was going through that really got me thinking. And coincidentally, and this is really quite wild, I picked up the local paper, and I opened the page, and there's a guy in my hometown who not only runs ultra marathons, but takes that to an extreme. So I'm reading down this article, and I've just covered 56 miles. This guy I'm reading about has covered 220 odd miles, has run from one side of Scotland to the other, and it's taken 88 hours to do it. So from that second, I knew I had to get him on to the podcast for a variety of reasons, pretty obvious ones. But as an introduction, I'd love Matt to introduce himself. I'm delighted to introduce Matt to the podcast. So Matt, tell us, give us an introduction. Who are you? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Matt Juchniewicz. I'm 43 years old. Married, 3 kids, and I do ultra running.
Ultra running. I think ultra running is not enough of a good example for you.
Well, anything over 26 miles technically is an ultra run. So 50 miles, you're well within that range. So well done. If this was your first ultra marathon, then definitely well done. Because a lot of people start from 30 miles.
Oh, really?
50k, and that is the baby ultra, as they call it. So to do a 50 as your first one, yeah, well done.
It's good. We'll come on to all the details. And listener warning, we're going to be talking about ultra marathons quite a lot. But the context is, I want to kind of dig a little bit, right? So I want to dig in terms of what separates an ultra runner from a mental perspective, from the physicality of it, but we'll get into it. And coincidentally, another coincidence, I heard that you also were in that race.
I was
the Glasgow to Edinburgh.
We must have passed each other.
No, we definitely didn't pass each other. I was right at the back. It took me just under 14 hours. So go on, give us your time.
I think I did it just under 10 hours.
Under 10 hours.
9 hours and 55 minutes.
The rain was horrendous.
It was biblical.
It didn't stop, did it?
Yeah. It's certainly all the races, not just ultras, all the trail races, road races that I've ever done, this was the worst in terms of weather conditions.
Well, I'll take that.
Yeah. It definitely made it a lot harder than it was the year before.
Not good.
Massive challenge.
So before we get into it, and we're going to get into lots and lots of detail, I want to take a step back.
Okay.
So one of my biggest challenges is balance in life, right? So trying to commit or find the time to do all the things that I know and feel that I should be doing, right?
Yeah.
So part of that's looking after myself. Part of that's looking after the relationship that I have with my wife. Part of that's being a dad and looking after the kids. Part of it's clearly, job and friends, and it goes on and on and on. Now, I know just from doing marathons, let alone the uptick in training that I had to do for the ultra, the amount of time that you have to invest in it is significant.
It is.
So what's your view on trying to juggle just everyday life with the challenges of doing ultra running?
I think from my point of view, I had to think about what is important for me, what is necessary, and I always say there's always time for fitness, you know. There's smaller things like, you know, sitting on your phone, watching TV, things that you can easily cut out and have a quality time, exercise and spend time with your family, things that are important to you, things that are less important, and literally TV, phone, things like computer games. These are time thieves.
Massive time thieves.
Massive time thieves. It's how easy is it to sit down and start, my wife calls it doom scrolling.
It is.
It is doom scrolling.
Absolutely, it is doom
you know,
scrolling.
And before you know, it's 15, 20 minutes and you haven't achieved anything.
Anything at all.
Nothing at all. Cut down on these little things and you'll be surprised how much time you have for ultra run, for training, for quality time with your family, you know.
But that takes awareness, Matt, right? So you have to be aware that stuff drains your time, whether it's TV or doom scrolling. I love that. But you have to be conscious of it before you can act on it, right?
Yes, but I think, again, from my experience, it was the fact that I recognized I was getting so much more in terms of physical fitness, but it was also the fact that when you go for a run and you get that boost of dopamine and you get that runner's high and you actually enjoying it, and you need to recognize, even if you can't be bothered, if you're really tired, if you're, I don't know, you're drained after a hard day at work, and how easy it is to sit down and put Netflix on.
Well, you just, but mentally you just want to,
yeah. But then when you actually think about it, I'm not gaining anything here. You know, am I actually resting here? Or am I just distracting myself completely? Force yourself to go out. Do that 5, 6, 10 mile or whatever your training is, and you'll feel so much better. And knowing that I feel so much better after a run, knowing how it affects my psyche, if you like, that's what motivates me to go out over sitting in front of the telly and watching TV or scrolling on my phone, you know. So it's knowing what I get out of doing that particular thing.
You've made the link, right? There's a correlation between doing that and feeling good.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing as well, and I'm assuming this, but it'd be good for you to validate it. If you're in a good place, then you're giving the best version of yourself really to those around you,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. How many times, you know, you have a stressful day at work and you come back and you literally just want to, you know, close the door.
You do.
Don't speak to anybody.
Yep.
But I mean, you will speak to my wife soon. But she can tell you, you know, even a hard day at work, I'll go out for a run and I'll say openly, I can't be bothered today. You know, I really can't be bothered going out. I'm so tired. But I will force myself because I know I will feel better for it. And a lot of times I'll tell her, you know, she'll say, I'm really tired, go for a run. And I'll motivate her, she'll go for a run, she'll come back. Do you feel better for it? Yes.
And so that's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed. And the weird thing about it all is that tiredness that prevents you from going, actually you gain energy from being on a run. So
absolutely.
You feel more energetic. And
absolutely.
But I think that's a level of awareness that a lot of people don't have because they are into a routine, right? And it's very hard to convince people who are in that other routine that doing something different might help them psychologically and physically, right? Okay, so the balancing thing, I think clearly you know there's a correlation. It helps you, it helps your relationship. So talk to me, let's get into the ultra running then, right? Which is the primary reason for getting you on as a guest. So I remember my wife saying to me when I'd suggested, you know, I think I fancy an ultra. And I'd done four marathons, and goodness knows how many half marathons, but I thought I'm going to try something different. So I remember her saying to me though, why do you need to do that? Like, what is it that is missing that you need to push the boundaries? And I said, well, I need to test myself. I need to challenge myself. I need to put myself in a zone of discomfort and maybe even potential failure so that I can kind of learn and see how far I can go, right? One of the things that strikes me, I'm going to throw the same question at you, but it's going to be a bit different because we've got a similar outlook, I would say, at base level, right? I don't know whether I'm ready to go where you went, but the point is, and the questions related to that is, you've pushed the boundaries because you're doing ultras.
Yeah.
I assume the 220 odd mile ultra was the biggest one you've attempted.
Yes.
So where's the line? Where does it stop? And is there a line?
It's a
right?
good question. I don't know if there is a line. I don't know if there is a line. I'd quite happily sign up for a longer one.
Honestly?
Yeah. And I know people who have done longer ones. So I think, if it's your first one and it didn't kill you and you actually want to do another one.
I definitely want to do
another one. You
will
will get there. Trust me, you will get there. You will want to do a 220 miler. It's something that you kind of start thinking about as you get into ultra running, and it's not the first thought is, yes, I want to challenge myself. I finish a marathon, and then you start to think, I managed that. How far can I go actually?
Right.
And you see other people doing it. Will I manage? I really enjoyed going through that hard phase of hardship, be it 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is. But I managed.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go further? And then you go further, you do your 50 miler,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at other events, like, I've done this. I wonder if I can do this. So it's that curiosity, where is my limit? That's one side of it, and it's the physical challenge. But obviously I had a lot of time to think about it during all my runs, but I think it's that hardship that you put yourself through, that feeling on the discomfort, and that moment where your body actually, screaming at you and telling you to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's having that mental strength to actually say, well, my legs are sore. Yes. My arms are sore. My back is sore. I'm tired. I want to sit down. But I will keep going because everything still works. It's sore, but it still works.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're breaking your body down effectively. You are. Mm-hmm. You are. But mentally, you're gaining so much strength from that. And I think that is the best feeling, that not only physically you've conquered the distance and you managed it, but you mentally, you basically mentally conquered it as well.
So there's lots of questions going through my head, right? So forgive me for this. So what is it that excites you more? Is it the duration in time?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the technical complexity? So things like elevation or terrain, or is it the mileage? What if I put all of the kind of dangly carrots with each one of those in front of you, which one would you take a bite of?
Do you know what? Preferably combination of all three. My preference in terms of marathons, ultra marathons, it's always trail, and the hillier the better.
Really?
It just makes it more difficult, and it's usually, if it's up in the hills, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's part of this. The whole experience is these events, certainly the ones that I've done so far, they're not your typical marathons like you see Edinburgh Marathon or Paris Marathon.
Yeah.
Thousands and upon thousands of people taking part, and nobody's really. You're just like in the crowd. Do you know what I mean? You're anonymous. Whereas with this, you're experiencing solitude. With your 50 miler, although it's relatively flat, like I said, we had biblical conditions. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were sections of the route that you were just by yourself.
Yeah, and I love that. By the way, I enjoyed that.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
as much as you enjoy spending time with other people, but it's your time.
Yes.
And you're the only person you're racing really is yourself.
Yep.
You're fighting with yourself and you keep going. But you can imagine 100 miler or even that, 220 miler. There's sections of, 20, 30, 50 miles that you will not see anybody.
Not a soul.
Not a soul. You run through the night. It's middle of nowhere. And you're just by yourself.
Can I, and this is a daft question because, again, I've only done one. With those sorts of mileage and in that sort of terrain and the conditions you describe in terms of not being able to see anyone, how do you not get lost?
Well, we're getting into a bit of
different technical
thing. I use my watch basically, so it's
GPS.
So it's a GPS watch, and you put a route. Most of the organisers will provide you with a GPX file, which is a file containing the route of the event. So one of the requirements usually that you need to have a map.
Yes.
And you need to know how to use it and a compass. And obviously it lives in my bag. But if you have a GPX, which is usually provided by the organizer, then it saves time of reading the map.
And that keeps you right.
And if it's like it's middle of the night, you're 160 miles into the race. It's middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning. Last thing you want to do is just whip out a map and compass and say, where am I going?
I'm surprised. I thought that would be the first thing you'd want to do.
No.
So this
is a backup.
That's a backup. Okay. Yeah. So you talked about something that was really interesting, I think, and you talked about presenting yourself with a challenge.
Yeah.
And going through. Actually, let's be honest, right? It's sometimes it's hell, and then you think at the logic. Right, the common sense of that.
Yeah.
And you think about the psyche.
Yeah.
So if you asked anyone, do you want to be comfortable or do you not want to be comfortable? I would guarantee that a large majority, like 90% plus of any population actually, but probably more so Western, would say comfortable, 90+%.
Yeah.
And the stats, by the way, just very rough approximate stats on the percentage of population who do marathons, around 1%, right? The percentage of population who do ultras, 0.1%.
Yeah.
0.1%, right? So that got me thinking about why would you want to do it? So are you kind of, is it ingrained? Are you, I've always exercised because I've enjoyed it, and like you, I've made the correlation and the link between I know that when I do that I feel better, and when I feel better I perform better, and I'm a better person.
Yeah.
But I think the reason most other people don't do it is because they're unable to make that correlation, or maybe they just don't get that same feeling. Yeah. But I can understand where they're coming from, right? Why would you want to put yourself in a difficult circumstance? The answer I have, and I don't know whether it's different, is I think you become more resilient, able to manage life's ups and downs better because you're putting yourself through an awful lot of crap in something like that. So when a kettle breaks or you have a flat tire, it's literally nothing in comparison to the type of stuff you go through. So that's the kind of conclusion. Is it similar for you?
It's exactly what you said. It's exactly what you said. You put yourself through all this pain and suffering effectively, but when you finish, it's such a massive accomplishment, both mentally and physically, that when you come in real life, when you come to a fork in the road, and there's any problems, you kind of draw back to your kind of experience of ultra running, and it's like I've been through so much worse, and I finished it. I managed it. This is nothing. People say, when they ask me about my ultra run, especially that last big event, and I tell them I finished this course in 88 hours, and they ask me what about sleeping? I slept 1 hour during
I read that, and I want to get into that because I cannot fathom it.
And again, it's something that I think about now. It sounds crazy. It does sound crazy. And if somebody told me that before I did it, you will sleep for an hour during 4 days of running. I said it's impossible, but it is possible. And if you manage this, you can do anything. I truly believe if you do hard things like this, then nothing else in life will stop you.
So on the sleep side,
yeah.
Excuse me. On the sleep side, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Which as you rightly say, is just.
Yeah.
Let's get into the practicalities. Where you're in the middle of.
Right. So, like you remember, Glasgow to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Every so many miles, you have an aid station.
Okay.
So the aid stations, there are aid stations on the race across Scotland as well.
Got it. Okay, they're just further.
They're just further apart.
Got it.
The longest section, and it's quite a hilly section as well. The longest section between aid station was about 28 miles. So you have to be self-sufficient during those times.
Got it.
So aid station, most of them on the route were within community halls, things like this.
Oh, so you can just bed down there.
There are kind of sleeping quarters within those aid stations, either a separate room or it's just kind of a little kind of fenced off area with blow up mattresses, so you can have a lie down. It's not really possible to have a proper good sleep anyway, and I had opportunity to have half an hour sleep there, couple hours sleep in another place, but I just could not sleep. I struggle sleeping if it's not in my own bed.
Right.
So the reason I slept only 1 hour is because that's all I got. That's all I managed. We did stop at a couple of aid stations for just, it was great just to take the load off and, sit down, put your feet up for a moment just to rest. You have to rest anyway.
Yeah.
But in the end, I only managed 1 hour sleep. Yeah. I was hallucinating at one point, which I didn't think was possible. I heard stories about it.
I heard stories about that.
And I thought that's not really possible.
How far through were you when that happened?
It was actually fairly... was it the second night or was it the first night? I think it was the second night. And
you were going all the way through the second night, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And you just started seeing things, hearing things, thinking things?
No, seeing things. Didn't hear things, but I definitely saw things. Shapes, bushes and trees formed into different shapes, and I saw houses and people where there were none. Bizarre.
So tiredness ultimately, right? Physical exhaustion.
It's literally that. Just sleep deprivation.
I remember when I stopped at one of the aid stations, and I got changed into just fresh clothes.
Yeah,
I think it was near the Falkirk Wheel.
Yeah.
So I must have stopped for about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Altogether there,
yeah.
right? And my family met me and everything. It was lovely. But even after 25 minutes, I was seizing. I was starting to seize. So the question, pure curiosity from my part, when you get asleep, even if it's an hour, because you've stopped moving, does your body start to shut down?
Yeah.
So trying to get back, even just to small movements again, is a battle, is it?
Yes. Yeah. The longer you go, the harder it is to start again. But I don't know what your training regime or routine is, but certainly I always say that if you're ultra running, most people do back-to-back long runs, so it basically gets you used to running on tired legs.
Got it.
So if you do a long run I usually do my long runs on Saturday and Sunday. So Sunday morning, it's usually my legs are a bit sore.
But you'll still go
but
out. But
you still go
run.
out, and the thing is, again, it's probably heard the expression before. It's peaks and troughs in ultra running.
Yeah.
And it's just having that mental strength again to go out when your legs are aching, when you're a bit tired, but it goes away. It goes away, and the longer you go, it you feel great.
Mm-hmm.
You run great, and then you hit a trough, and you start feeling pain. You start feeling tiredness. You're going to be lethargic. you might experience hallucinations and stuff during the night, but then it goes away, and then suddenly you're feeling okay again. So it's just knowing what's coming and knowing how to manage it. So a lot of planning and strategies, and I think a lot of problem solving.
So yeah, you talk about the back-to-back long runs. That's something I never did.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the furthest run I did, knowing that I was going to do 56 miles, I think I was doing it in time. So I think I ran for 6 hours and covered something like, it was pretty naff actually. It was like 34, 35 miles, right? Yeah. So it was pretty bad, but I was really pleased with that distance.
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
only done a marathon.
And so
right?
you should be. Yeah.
Fathoming, like, what's a long run for you? Like 20 miles, 30 miles?
Yeah, it could be 20, it could be 15. It really depends on terrain.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. 50 miles from Glasgow to Edinburgh on a sunny day.
Yeah.
Distance-wise, long run, and your legs will be sore.
Yeah.
But I've recently done a Pentlands run.
Okay.
And there's a well-known route called the Pentlands Skyline.
Okay.
So you basically follow all the peaks, and it's up and down, up and down, up and down. It's about 16 miles. Okay. But it's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. So the fastest I've ever managed, and I know people do it a lot faster. I'm not the fastest person in the world, but the fastest for me was 4 hours and 20 minutes or something like that for 16 miles.
But it's because it's
because it's up and down. So, long run could be, 12, 13, 15 miles with a lot of elevation. Long run, I think you need to think about long runs in terms of time on your feet.
Right.
This is more important than distance right. itself.
Yeah.
So, again, it's very personal. We all train differently, and we have all different abilities, and different things will work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Things are very different, like in approach, right?
Yeah. But for me, certainly, long run, I try not to go over 3 hours generally on a long run. Sometimes I'll go around 4, but I'll do back to back, as I say, and between Saturday and Sunday, I will generally not go over 30 miles. So 30 miles between 2 days. So I can do 20 on one day, 10 on the other.
Okay, that seems more manageable now.
Yeah. It's something that I kind of found out during my research, and I found that it does work for me. Mm-hmm. With generally, if I don't go over 3 hours in training, because over 4 hours, yes, you're kind of getting more time on your feet, but then it will take your body longer to recover.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You're still getting quite a lot of time on your feet over 2 days, 30 miles. But then I do train during the week as well, shorter runs, 8-10 miles.
How many times do you train then? How many times will you go out running in a week? 7 days. How many times?
5.
5. So you do give yourself 2 rests. 2
rest days. Yeah. Occasionally, again, if you skip a run because you're really feeling a bit ill. Yep. Nothing's gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? But generally, my kind of training routine is 5 days a week.
And hills, are they good? Like in terms of, again,
the more hills you do, the better.
The better.
Yeah. Especially if you're signing up for a hilly marathon or an ultra marathon, or even any hilly trail run. There's a lot kind of technical bits, but generally, if you're training for an event, and you divide your event's elevation by distance, it'll come up with a kind of factor figure, and you should follow that factor figure in your training.
Ooh, that's new information. Okay.
But to make it kind of more simple, if you're signing up for a hilly ultra, train in the hills. Train in the hills, basically.
Right? Common sense.
Get used to running in the hills, and because you think up hills are the difficult bits, it's the downhills.
It's the downhills.
It's the downhills that'll destroy your quads. So the more you do it, the more your body gets used to it, and it's even like hill walking. is very beneficial to
just
run.
getting out in the hills.
Just getting out in the hills,
as long as it's hilly and challenging.
Yeah,
gets your heart rate going. So, a couple of things then. Nutrition.
Yeah.
I did a rough calculation, rough, very, very rough.
Yeah.
22,500 calories, roughly.
Yeah.
Probably more for you because you're a bigger guy, right?
Yeah.
22,500 calories burned.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even start with trying to refuel that number of calories? And I think going into aid stations at ultras, it is like a kid in a sweet shop, isn't it? You've got everything in front of you. But I think I read something from you in the local article. Eventually, after you've had your 1,000th sweet thing, you just crave something else, right?
Yeah. You get something that's called taste fatigue.
Taste fatigue, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. You get taste fatigue after a while, and you'll see with a lot of not even newbies but experienced ultra runners, will get to a stage where nothing goes down. Some people, it all comes back up.
Yeah, struggle to keep it down.
Struggle to keep it down.
Yeah.
And you struggle to put anything down. You struggle to eat. Nothing tastes right after a while. So it is a long process, but you need to work out what works for you in terms of during training, what works for you, what you can actually eat, and what stays down. I'm lucky enough that I've experienced taste fatigue a lot of the times, but I've never actually had an episode where everything came back.
Sick.
Yeah, where I was sick. So that was good, but I had instances where I felt a bit sick, and I felt like I can't eat anything, even the gels, which you need energy, and if you don't eat anything, you don't take anything, you're done.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, it's about problem solving. If you feel like something like that's coming, get to the nearest aid station, or even if you have to stop on the side of the road, sort yourself out, spend 10 minutes sorting yourself out, and then once you sort the problem, keep going, because otherwise you're gonna stop. You're not gonna finish. So but it's all things that you're gonna work out during training.
Give me some advice in terms of what's my next. And I know it's a very personal thing, right?
Yeah.
But I'll be transparent. 56. The next obvious one for me, the one that's calling to me, is a 100-miler.
Yeah.
But I've seen there's a Grand Union Canal race, 145 miles, which I think is Birmingham to London.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm shying away from there is that's also a canal race again, so it's flat.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering whether I mix it up with the terrain now and put a bit of hills in. But I don't know. What would you? Because it sounds daft to me, at least, to go from something like 56 to 220.
I'll give you an example, because again, it's a very, very personal thing. One of the guys that did the race across Scotland last year, and we chatted. We spent about 20 minutes running together, and he had never done an ultramarathon.
And he was
quite an accomplished marathoner.
Okay.
So really, really accomplished runner.
Yep.
But never done an ultramarathon. He only ever done a marathon distance. Quite a few marathons, albeit, but only a marathon. And he managed it no problem.
So he completed.
So again, he kind of completely skipped all the ultra distances.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I started with a baby ultra, 30k. Then I did a 40 miler, 50 miler.
So you built it up.
100k, and then 100 miles, and then it was just kind of natural progression, if you like. But again, whatever works for you, you know what I mean. It's just as long as you recognize that you need to train for a specific event properly.
Is there a correlation between the big one and how hard it was for you, or is that not necessarily true?
I think if you've done a 50 miler, there will be a massive difference between, because it is double the distance, of a 100 miler.
Yeah.
But once you reach the 100 miles, I think the 220 or 223 as it was in the end, it's not really that different.
Just more of the same, really.
the worst you'll feel on the 100,
Yeah.
you will not feel any worse on the 200 miles. There's different set of problems and challenges that come with that distance. You need to look on a 100 mile. You still need to obviously take that into consideration. Look after your feet. Look at your pace. Make sure you pace yourself properly. This is important on 100, but it's even more so important on a 200 miler. You know what I mean? So, but lessons that you'll learn on a 100 miler, it's the same lessons that you will take from on the 200 miler, if that makes sense.
Got it. Okay. The other thing, maybe I'm thinking about 24 hour, which might be close to like 100 mile distance, maybe 90 mile distance.
Again, it just depends on the terrain. On a
like you said, 16 was
a
lot.
So I've only done one 100 miler, and it was along the Southern Upland Way as well. It was the GB Ultra Scotland 100.
Wow.
So it's part of the same
route. It? Oh, it's part of it.
So it's basically the 100 mile section of the full bit.
Wow. So you got to that bit in the big one and thought, I've done this one before.
Well, yeah, and the year before I did the 50.
Right, okay.
And I loved it so much. It's like I really wanted to do the 100. I did the 100, and back then, even after the 50, I was looking at people doing the 200 miler, dot watching, and I was just like, I can't believe how is this possible?
It's dangerous. You're dangerous. Okay, so I want to finish on the physical activity because I want to explore a bit more about Matt, right?
Okay.
So on the finishing the physical activity, the one thing I was surprised to read was you're also part of a running club.
I am,
right?
Yes.
And what didn't compute there for me was when we train, generally, especially marathon runners, ultra marathon runners, tends to be alone. And you kind of, the lone wolf thing. And even during the races, you're on your own for vast amounts of time.
Yeah.
But then running clubs are really social. So is that just a way for you to kind of balance out both? Or is it about, in an ultra, you're competing with yourself, but in a club, there's other competition? Like,
not really.
Okay.
To me,
it's more social.
It's more social, yeah. Genuinely, the running club that I'm in, Haddington Running Club, great bunch of guys. Everybody's so friendly, and we do one training night a week where you get to catch up with people. And one of the reasons that I joined the club was the wealth of knowledge of people, because there are ultra runners in the club, people who have done ultra marathons before I even attempted my first one.
Okay.
So there's a lot of experience there, and there's a lot of people you can speak to and get some advice and their point of view. There's you can learn from other people.
Well, it's local to me. I might give it a go.
Absolutely. So you should. So you should.
So let's explore other avenues so that we don't have you in a pigeonhole box here as only an ultra marathoner. Talk to us about other things that keep you on the right side of kind of mental health, positivity, and what gives you joy in life.
I think the main thing at the moment, over the last few years, is running. Is definitely running.
Okay.
I do have another passion, which is motorcycling, and especially motorcycle touring. So you mentioned that before. There's a big parallel between ultra running for me. The more I think about it, the more I realize that there is a big connection between touring, motorcycle touring, long distance touring, and ultra running, where you put yourself through a period of discomfort and hardship, but you get to see so many wonderful places. Uh-huh. And when you get to your destination, final point, if you like, for your day's journey, and you set up camp, somewhere in the hills, mm-hmm. It's just amazing. You get just such an amazing feeling of bliss and peacefulness. You know what I mean? And it's something that I experienced during ultra runs as well. So yeah, I think it's like we said, you're putting yourself through a deliberate period of hardship and discomfort, but that it'll benefit you.
It's
Right?
It's worth it,
and you'll feel better for it.
So is it the tranquility?
It's the
as well as the adversity and the challenge.
Yeah, it's both. I don't think anybody would enjoy pain by itself, but there has to be some sort of a reward for it. And I think both with ultra running and long distance motorcycle touring, that's the rewards. You get to see some wonderful places. You meet some wonderful people, and you experience both amazing support from other runners, organizers of races, volunteers, other bikers that you meet along the way, and you also experience solitude, which totally helps you just chill out. You know what I mean?
I don't think we get enough solitude anymore.
No,
my previous guest, who's a counsellor, talked about really encouraging people to get bored. We don't get bored anymore.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Because we're on a hill somewhere with nobody to talk to, and so we've only got our own thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And we have to. But a lot of people, they're just constantly bombarded by noise or distraction, and it doesn't allow space for their heads to wander and be creative anymore.
Absolutely.
So that's what you're getting in abundance.
I think as a society, in general, Western society, like you mentioned that before, I think we have it too easy.
Yes,
and things like social media, things like mobile phones, TV. We just get bombarded with everything, and it's so easy to just. You literally you can pick up your phone without moving. You can watch YouTube on it. You can watch TV.
Anything.
You can shop.
5 hours later,
you can speak to people. Exactly. Back in the day, you wanted to go to a shop, you wanted to buy something, you had to make an effort, get out of the house, go and buy this, buy that.
You don't even need to do that anymore, right?
No, you just speak to people, write a letter or go and visit them. You know what I mean? Whereas nowadays, it's just everything's in the palm of your hand.
It's not healthy, is it?
It's not healthy, and it's just too easy. And I think. Again, you see that all over the place. It's things like Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of these influencers and people who present you with this idyllic almost life.
It's artificial. It's nonsense.
It really
is.
It really is artificial, and I think a lot. It accounts for a lot of problems. Nowadays, mental health problems and issues with the society. So I think putting yourself through that hardship, through physical fitness, and it makes up for it massively.
Do you think it gives you a better sense of appreciation of things? You appreciate things more.
Absolutely.
Even the simple things.
Absolutely.
You don't take them for granted.
Absolutely.
You appreciate them.
Do you know, even as a teenager, I used to go camping a lot.
Yeah,
I loved camping.
Yeah.
I'm
great.
I'm quite an outdoorsy person. I always have been.
Yeah.
But even going camping for a week or two, and you have no running water and things like that, it's very, very basic.
Yeah. But then you get home,
and then you get home, and then you simple things like shower, hot water, nice and clean toilet, comfy bed.
And it puts a big smile on your face, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think we just take things for granted.
We do, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, on the motorbike side, this is a bit scary again. So I've got a Yamaha Tracer 9 GT9.
Okay.
I don't get out on it as much as I'd like, again, because of family and work.
Yeah.
But I love it when I do.
Yeah.
I need to do more touring, but it's a phenomenal bike. What have you got?
I've got a Suzuki. I've got two bikes. I've got a Suzuki.
Of course, you've got two bikes.
I've got a V-Strom 1050, and I've got a VS 1400 Intruder.
Wow.
It's more like a chopper style, and the other one's an adventure bike. So, but just like yourself, last couple of years, COVID and everything,
it's
just put a drastic stop to it. But I'm hoping to resume my adventures in the summer.
Amazing.
Fingers crossed.
Is there, just to close off then, is there what bit of advice would you give to the general public, the listeners out there, in terms of just keeping on top of life, general day-to-day life? Running's clearly the big one for you, and physical exercise. So beyond suggesting that, is there anything else that you found is a good way to just cope with ups and downs? Is it more about trying to just getting out and doing something?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just go out. I appreciate running's not for everybody.
You can walk, like you said, right?
But you can walk. You know, if you want to go to a gym, if a gym's your thing, go and try a gym.
Yeah.
If you like cycling, but go out and do something. Go out and do something. If you're gonna sit down and waste an hour or two on your mobile phone or watching TV,
the amount of people, Matt, who say I haven't got the time, and then they
there's
proceed to tell you about binge watching a Netflix, you know,
the thing is, like,
set.
exactly, people say I'm so busy, I haven't got time. There's always time.
There's always time.
There's
what
always
you choose
time
to do with
exactly.
it. That's
exactly. So yeah, I'll give you an example. Is like we don't have TV. I do have Netflix. But we've stopped paying TV license a couple of years ago because if you don't watch TV, you don't need to pay it.
Yeah.
So not only that, but like, it saves us money now as well.
Even better.
Exactly.
Better.
So.
But get out and do something.
But get out and do something.
Message.
That's the message, I think. Just be active, and the more you do it, the more you'll enjoy it. You know, simple things like you even get yourself a watch, and that counts your steps. You know,
gives you motivation.
Set yourself a little challenge. You know, I'm going to do 5,000 or 10,000 steps a day, and start somewhere.
Start somewhere. That's the point as well. Don't search for perfect.
Yeah,
just do something. Yeah,
and then keep at it. I think it's just having that mental awareness that you need to keep at it, even when you don't feel particularly motivated. Everybody even top athletes get it. That's the thing. I think that's the thing you need to remember, that everybody has an off day.
Yeah.
And if you can't be bothered, just remember that if you actually go out, force yourself to go out, you will enjoy it and you will feel better for it.
Fantastic. Matt, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I'm honestly in awe. I'm sure a lot of other people are in awe as well, but really good lessons, and thank you so much for sharing so much.
Thank you.
All right, cheers.